Hey guys, today's video we look at the T29, so this is the one that you can get the new free skin for. Of course, if you grind it out this weekend, make sure that you pick up either the T29 or you've got something like the Freedom, which you can play as well. You can also play things like the T26E5 Patriot, I think it is. You've got another one, I believe, the Minuteman, that you can play as well. All of those will count towards getting the points to be able to earn this skin, and I think you need somewhere in the region of about 60 points or something like that. So it shouldn't take you too long to be able to actually pick up the skin for the T29, and trust me, it looks quite nice in game. Yeah, definitely a skin that I will be looking to pick up this weekend. Of course, you can pick it up from the 2nd of July, which is tomorrow, until the 6th of July in the morning. So, yeah, if you want the skin, then definitely make sure that you're grinding out the game during this weekend to be able to pick up this new free skin. Now, often we don't tend to get new free skins that often, so of course if you have got the time, then I would recommend it. If you want it in the future, it's going to cost you probably in the region of 3,000 gold, and certainly when you have to play something like a T29 that is quite possibly one of the best heavy tanks at tier 7 in the tech tree. Yeah, definitely a tank that I really do enjoy playing. It's just got everything that you really need at tier 7. And definitely as a heavy tank in general, you've got this really strong turret. I mean, yes, you can get penned in that kind of cupola on top, but it is very hard for people to be able to hit it. It's one of those cupolas that's basically invisible. If you're playing against the Russian tanks, you'll know all about invisible cupolas. It's basically like one of those. Not quite as overpowered, but certainly one that people can kind of not very easily hit, that's for sure. Now, as far as the T29 gameplay, we've got 2 gameplays in this video. We'll go through the equipment setup as well, so we'll have a look at how you should actually set up the tank if you are to begin actually playing this to get the free skin. Now, first things first, this is the new map, of course. Well, I say new map, it's El Alamein. A fantastic map in my opinion. It's one of the ones that World of Tanks console devs really did get quite right, and certainly with all of the new changes that they've done, it's really actually been quite good. Now, what are we doing in this game? Well, of course, taking the T29 into a position where you can get hold down is obviously preferable, but there aren't too many places without camping super hard on this map for us to take the T29 to. So, to begin with, always in my heavy tanks, I will go up to this A line, or the number line as some people call it. But basically I will be taking that kind of line, moving into this town area, of course staying over to the top of the side of the map, if that makes sense. So literally trying to stay nearest the beach, and then try and win this side, which of course we've done. Unfortunately, not very many people, like our medium tanks, went into the position that they probably should do, which is in the G2 area of the map, like down in that kind of corner. So a lot of their team have actually pushed heavily or quite hard into our team that are kind of moving up now. And so, yeah, I think the enemy team have got the advantage here. Now, unfortunately, we're having a bit of a tussle with the back chat here. Yeah, my apologies. I was probably not paying too much attention there. But yeah, moving on. What are we doing? So, pushing our advantage. What I want to try and do is get to this hill in front of me before anyone else can kind of get there, if that makes sense. So I want to get there, get hold down before anyone else like kind of pushes over, and then I'm not going to have too much of a fun game. Of course, you want to make sure you are hold down, which is of course hiding the lower part of the tank in the T29. It's kind of fairly weak, so you're not going to be able to bounce very many. You can, if you kind of angle, hope that they hit the tracks and then don't pen that way, but it is unlikely. And so this is exactly the position you want to be taking the T29 into, of course. The only problem I do have with the T29 and the American tanks in general is the lower plate and the kind of top, well, the actual hull armor is pretty weak. So yeah, unfortunately we can't get the lower like or at least a decent shot onto the upper bit of the defender. What you see me doing there, you know, when I'm aiming down, well, that's actually in order to kind of block his gun, so that hopefully he will bounce. But unfortunately, he didn't bounce a single round there, and we get shut down. Of course, a decent game, 2,816 damage, which isn't awful. Certainly not the best game I've ever had, but it's one that I guess, you know, you're not going to sniff at. 3,400 combined, tier 7, you know, that's an okay game. But next game is certainly a game that surprised me a lot more, and we'll get into that right now. So, what is the next game? Well, this is on Arctic region, of course, one of the older maps within the game. This map has been in rotation for donkey's years. This thing has been one that I've played thousands of times, probably. At this point, this is just ridiculous. Although, saying that, I've played a ridiculous amount of games. 20,000 is quite a lot on this game. I think I've spent like 100 days, but we don't need to talk about it, of actual time and hours, if that makes sense. 100 days of game time. But yeah, this tank is one you want to be taking into a position, and we'll show you just how the T29 in the right matchup against heavy tanks, against enough hit points, can whittle down the enemies within the game so much easier than, say, some of the other tanks around. At tier 7, I find the armour is definitely 100% better than something like the Tiger 131 that you see in front of us. Any of the Tigers, realistically, because they are just auto-aim and pen pretty much. T29, not so much. Obviously, if they hit your turret, you're more than likely going to bounce. Like, you're not going to be able to pen the T29 turret unless, of course, you get the side of it. And, yeah, 9 times out of 10 you'll pen the side of the turret, but that's why you always want to keep your turret in facing the direction of the opponent that is to fire next. Now, that's interesting kind of to talk about, I guess, and try and teach you, I guess, about it, is that a lot of the time I see people, they'll just aim at one specific tank within the game, and yes, they might bounce their shot, but what I find would be super helpful is if maybe instead of just aiming at one person, once they've fired, you can then turn your turret to be able to bounce another shot from someone else, or increase the chances of bouncing another shot from someone else. Now, it's kind of hard to explain. What you want to be doing is basically making sure your armour is the most effective to every single person that you engage, whether that be 1 tank, 2 tanks, 3 tanks, whatever it is. Once someone's fired, that's their gun reloading. They're no harm to you then. Turn your armour towards the next person to fire, and then of course you can, if you know kind of the rough reloads of the tanks that you'll be facing, then what you can do is kind of just think about that and determine who's going to fire next, angle your armour towards that person, and you'll be doing a hell of a lot better. Now, Tiger P behind us, got to get rid of him, otherwise he's going to be a pain in the bum, quite literally. T29 on the corner, well, there's 2 of them. But at this point we need to get rid of them. They're going to be a real pain if they get hold down. Of course this guy's trying to get me, but what we do is we go keep a really steep angle, so he has to expose himself there to all of our tanks on our team, and therefore he gets tracked out in the open and gets the majority of his hit points taken away. Now that's fantastic for us. Absolutely fantastic. What we want is basically support our team in as much of a way as possible, to the point where they're just going to be getting stuffed, basically. Now, you'll see what this T29 here is doing. He's actually playing quite well. He's gone into a position where he is hold down. However, we can still get some shots on him. Doesn't mean that he's, you know, invulnerable, because what we do now is actually get a bit of elevation on our tank to get that shot down into him, which many players don't do. They won't reposition their tank, they'll just kind of sit there, and then obviously he's in the better position. Of course now we shut him down. Of course, use the terrain to your advantage. If you can manage to get the depression onto them, then yeah, you'll be doing a lot better. And you'll see I just auto-aim that. Don't tend to like auto-aiming all of the time, but in a situation where he's pulling back down a hill, of course, auto-aiming is absolutely fine. Now, what you'll see or notice that what I'm doing here is I'm actually pulling right back, because I saw that someone was in this bush over here. We don't know what it is, have no idea what it is, But what we do is put some blind shots into the bush. We're waiting to see if we can see any more rounds coming in. Of course we can't at the moment, but maybe in a second we'll be able to actually see some rounds coming in. Now we see one over to the left, we see another round over there, so there's probably around 2 tanks in there. What we did see is a tank right there, and we got a shot there. So a decent amount of damage, you know. If you just take these kind of areas, you make sure that you're kind of thinking about it. We put another one into him, so we've picked up a nice amount of damage so far. 3,000 damage in total is no awful game in the T29. Certainly not an amazing game. Certainly not one you'd sniff at, but it is one that you would like to see a little bit more damage just to get that mastery badge or really push yourself to have the best game possible. Now I'm aiming at the E25. Unfortunately Tiger goes right in front of me as I was doing it, but we do pick him up anyway. And then the Tiger gets shut down by the Lorraine 15550, the tier 8 French artillery. Now we've got to be quite cautious here now, because obviously the artillery could pen us if he's loading heat, which would be a big problem. Of course, if we get hit by someone else like the Schmiel, we're then a one shot for artillery. He can basically just hit us anywhere and we'd be taking some decent damage. So yeah, being a little bit careful here. Now unfortunately we get spotted somehow. Don't know how that was. Maybe it was someone else back there, but what we do need to do is pull back around the corner again, because it's going to be a little bit of a pain if we get hit. Now, Tiger 131 camping in the base. Don't know what he was doing all game. Don't know if he's been there for the entire game, but that's something you definitely don't want to be doing in your top tier heavies, is camping in your own base for the majority of the game, because I can assure you he's probably not had a particularly an amazing game compared to what he could have if he was on the front line helping out his team. Now, we won't get into that, but what we will do is we'll try and aim for the tracks of the Tiger 131, lock him down. Unfortunately we don't, which is a little bit of a pain, but now what we'll do is we'll just wait and hope that he'll show some of himself to us, and he does. We put one into him, so we've got another one in there. Really decent game so far. Picked up a lot of damage. Unfortunately our driver is knocked out, which means that we are quite a lot slower, and unfortunately I don't think we pick up any more damage within this game. But what it does showcase is just how good the T29 is. Firing on the move, you can do it. You can do loads and loads within the T29, and this tank is certainly one I would recommend. Definitely recommend it. Minuteman is another fantastic tier 7 heavy tank as well, based on the T29 with spaced armor. Makes the armor really annoying to actually play against. But yeah, definitely a game I was surprised to have. Really good one. Picked up a decent amount of XP. We've got a little bit of spotting damage or assistance damage, whatever you want to call it, and certainly helped our team out on that flank up in A and B1 / C1. Really good game. We get the victory, of course, with a performance like that. Really did enjoy the T29, and it was certainly one of my favourites to play in back in the day. I managed to get a Kolobanov's medal in the T29, my only actual Kolobanov's medal within World of Tanks. Haven't had many opportunities, to be honest. I don't tend to go 1 versus 5 very often. But yeah, 3,910 damage, mastery badge, high caliber, fire for effect, Confederate medal, and we are at 92.7% on our marks of excellence. Really good. No complaints from me there. Earned quite a bit of silver, which you can do currently because of the silver operations for being in a American tank, and obviously if you take out American tanks as well. Yeah, fantastic time to be playing the T29. 100% recommend it. Hopefully you get the new free skin. Let me know what you think about this video. Did you enjoy it? Hit that like button if you did. And if you aren't subscribed, then maybe subscribe to keep up with the latest World of Tanks console news and update info, as well as gameplay, guides, and various different tank reviews and stuff like that for World of Tanks. Other than that, big thank you to our channel members for being a member and supporting the channel even further, on top of just watching the videos, which I really appreciate. Other than that, hope you do enjoy the rest of your day, and I hope to see you in the next video. Goodbye.